Hello, folks. This is Joe with a very special announcement. On Friday, September 21st, I'll be hosting the Trap Set Live with special guests Rod Argent and Colin Blunstone, founders of one of my all-time favorite bands, The Zombies. After the conversation, Rod and Colin will play an ultra-rare, all-acoustic set of timeless classics. It all takes place at Ace Hotel in Palm Springs, California. This is an intimate performance and space is limited. Don't miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Visit acehotel.com/zombies for ticket information. You feel like you need to put in a certain amount of work in order for it to be justified?
Yeah, I think I do in general in life. Like I feel like I want to get like caught out for like cheating my way somewhere or something.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to the Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Smile like you got a straw in something tropical. I've got the party plugged right into my skull.
You're hearing She Looks Like Fun by the Arctic Monkeys, featuring my guest, Matt Helders, on drums. Formed in Sheffield in 2002, when the members were only 16 years old, the Arctic Monkeys gained early notoriety online, and over the course of a series of #1 albums, became one of their generation's most popular bands. Matt's early drumming drew heavily from neo-garage drummers and contained rhythmic hooks reminiscent of Gang of Four's Dave Allen. Over the course of the subsequent 15 years, he's developed a voice of his own, alternately bombastic and nuanced, and sonically adventurous. Aside from his work with Arctic Monkeys, Matt played on Iggy Pop's acclaimed post-pop depression album and subsequent tour. He's also currently writing a solo album. I spoke to Matt in downtown Los Angeles. And now my conversation with Matt Helders.
There's a place where you can wag your tongue, baby, but why can't we all just get along? Dance as if somebody's watching, 'cause they are.
My dad is still he works for a company that manufactures baseball caps, and he's like the salesman or sales director or whatever. My mum, for the most part, while I was growing up, worked in banks and like receptionist kind of thing, and now she does a similar thing for like the Sheffield University.
What kind of music was on in your home when you were growing up?
It was quite a wide variety. They're not sort of into one particular thing. So I mean, it was a lot of like Carpenters, Beach Boys, Stylistics. There's a lot of that kind of thing, but they kind of went along with, you know, the times as well. There was a big Seal moment in our house, I remember, which was, you know,
maybe around 93.
Great for that. Yeah, that would have been yeah. Around like CDs, like they really went for the CD movement.
Okay. Well, you were born in '86, right?
Yeah.
So when did your family get the first CD player?
It was probably. I remember what one of them looked like. It was later to the game, I think, but it was when they'd started doing like the mini hi-fi systems where they were all in one, like not the separates. And it was just like that and two speakers. Yes. It was all like nice and slick and small. They got one of those, and I've got an older brother, and he joined one of those things. I imagine they had it in America as well, where you like sign up and you get so many CDs
Yeah.
And you forget to pay your bill, and then they come after you for the rest of your life.
I have a lot of friends that would order it to the neighbor's house.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
that
one
kind
of the, that's a classic.
Yeah, I used to do that sort of thing.
So what kind of records would you order through it?
Well, he's about 5 years older than me, so I'd be like on hand-me-downs for everything, and that included music. But he sort of got me into Oasis and Pulp and all of that kind of movement. He was probably at a more appropriate age when that was like exciting for
Sure.
younger teenagers. And I just embraced it as well, and just because we just, I suppose, listen to music together or listen in the car, in my parents' car.
Did your brother play an instrument?
No, he has not got a musical bone in his body.
So you're the only musician in the family.
Yeah, nobody else. I think like years ago, I think my dad's dad played a little bit of guitar, but I never saw it growing up. Like it'd already gone away by then.
Was drums your first instrument?
Yeah, I'd had a few keyboard lessons as a kid, but it was one of those things like just at the local like mall thing. I just didn't want. I never practiced, and some of it like stuck with me to today. I can like. I'm more comfortable because of it, like playing a keyboard or something. But for drums, that was like circumstance in that us as the group of friends just decided to have a band before any of us played instruments. It was a bit of a backwards way of doing it. But it was like we saw friends around us who were in bands, and we were like, oh, maybe we could do that. Like that's a cool thing to do. And when we were about 16, we'd left high school, and Jamie and Alex they had guitars but didn't really play them that much, and so I was kind of left with drums, and I just thought, yeah, that seems like an interesting one to do. And I had like money that my grandparents had put away for me when I was born or something that I got when I was 16 for like leaving school and all that. And I just bought like the cheap drum kit that comes with like sticks and a stool, like the whole package, and just tried to play drums, I suppose. I had no inkling that it'd be something I'd be good at.
Did it feel like it was something you were good at right away?
No, there was definitely quite a steep learning curve, but part of that was my own fault. I'd just look at like my favourite songs and be like, I wonder if I could play that. And
so what were your favourite songs when you were 16?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I listened to a lot of like rap then, so I thought drumming along to rap seemed quite comfortable, and it was like I ain't got to do a lot of crazy fills, and it's a good tempo to like make mistakes within. And I was probably on the cusp of like either getting really into something like Limp Bizkit, or because I think that's what happened with the kids at my school or my age, like it was like rap, and then anything close to that with guitars was like down that way. But I think for me personally, I think I would say fortunately I got into like Strokes and stuff, like the indie side of it kind of came along and swooped me up instead. So like the Hives and White Stripes were things I'd start to play along to, and I based like my whole like how my kit looked on Chris Dangerous and the Hives for a long time. I was like, that's how I want it to look. And then I started like noticing, like people that they were influenced by, and like looking at things like Buddy Rich and reading about why he had his cymbals low because he was on TV and he wanted to be seen and stuff. And I just thought that was quite interesting that like because it still is. Now I'm just stuck in a rut of having it that way. Whereas I know it's not the most ergonomic, comfortable way to play, but that's what I'm used to now. And it was like probably quite a stubborn thing and quite a funny thing that like the look of it came first for me. But that's just, I think
it seems
that
like
was just,
the concept came first.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
That
that pattern seems to have just carried on, and yeah, that's what I mean. Like being a drummer was a thing before I could do it. So I think before I got the kit, I was like printing tabs off for like Blink-182. And I had no business trying to learn like those songs, and I'd listen on headphones and try and look at these tabs that people might have wrongly done. And that's before I'd like learned by ear. Like obviously I got to a stage where I'm just like, oh, I know what that is now. That's like a kick and then a snare and that, But before I thought for some reason I needed to learn this way by like visually seeing these notations and stuff. And that probably got a bit daunting because I was like, oh, well, that's it. I'm never going to be able to play. And then I had friends who'd played a while, like they'd been playing 5 years, and I was like, wow, imagine when I've been playing 5 years. Like, I'll be able to do all this stuff. Like,
well, you can. I mean, I feel like that first 5 years is often the period of the most rapid growth in
Absolutely,
any skill,
yeah.
really.
Yeah. I think since I was 16, the first yeah, that like even like the first record, there's some stuff on there that I'll find a challenge now to play live or to you know to keep up with that. Like,
So
tempo.
how old were you when you made your first record?
Probably 17 or 18. I think probably 18 by the time we actually recorded it.
So walk me through, what you needed to do from starting out at 16 to recording when you're 18.
Well, we, I think because we were learning at like the same pace sort of thing, the band was learning together. That was quite good in a way because nobody was holding anybody back. It was just like, so every milestone we had was very small. It was like, let's get to the end of this verse. And then it's like, it becomes, let's do a song. And it was still covers at that point. Like, I wonder if we could play this song well, you know. And then we rehearsed for a year before we even like dared do a show or even talking about doing a gig. But as soon as we did a first gig, we did a demo session. And then it got quite regular then. So it was like, do a gig, a month later we'll do demos, we'll save up some money again, do a gig, do the demos. And that went on for probably another year. So like the first gig will have been when I was 17. So yeah, by the time we actually recorded, I was probably 18. And that was, I suppose it was, the first album was different to any other for obviously loads of reasons. But one was that we'd lived with these songs now for ages and could play them probably the best we were going to be able to play them. And we've been playing them live for a year, which backfired a little bit because the first time we tried to record them, they were just like way too fast, and we were playing them as if we were playing a show, and it was a bit like almost like we wanted that like raw side of it, but it was almost like a bit too far, and you like lost the what was good about the songs in the first place.
Did you feel like you were a good drummer when you recorded that first record?
No, I felt like, it felt like I was constantly like just waiting to trip up. I was like playing to the edge of my ability all the time, which felt good. And it's kind of an attitude I like to adopt now, even like to do the most I can at certain times. And that's not always a technical thing, like the fastest thing I can do or the best thing, but like just like getting to the edge of the comfort zone. It seemed to be like a good zone to be in, to keep that excitement. But yeah, I didn't feel like it would like fluctuate a lot between like how I felt about myself, where it's like, oh shit, that could have been a lot better, or even having the record out and then continuing to tour it, and then like 6 months later playing that same song, being like, oh, I wish I'd have done this then. But
right.
I mean, I still do that.
Sure. Well, so you leave school when you're 16.
In England,
was
yeah.
it your plan to become a professional musician?
No, I think before it was just unknown. I think leaving school when you're 16 in England it was exciting because I didn't like school that much, but it didn't really prepare me for much. Like I hadn't had a chance to figure out what I wanted to do yet, and then you're not sort of left on your own.
Like, was it an option to go work at the baseball cap?
Well, I did do like a work experience there, like when you do 2 weeks of school. When you have to do that. I did that there, and I learned some like programming the embroidery machine and stuff, and that was fine. But I think I wanted to try and do something on my own, I suppose. I felt that was important, but I just had for a while I just did part-time jobs, like working in a clothes shop, working in a call centre, just while we were getting the band going. And I went to college in the English way, which is not the same as here. You know, it's like a 2-year thing when you're 16 to 18. And I did like media studies, music technology, like the engineering side of it, and photography. And I kind of chose things that it didn't matter so much if I didn't turn up all the time, and it was just like I might have access to do these fun things. But I think I got to the end of that. So were you a driven person? Like, were you practicing drums in that time that when you weren't turning up, or were you fucking off? Oh no, yeah. Then I was. It was probably to play drums, but then I'd sometimes be at college, but playing the drums instead of at the class or whatever, because they had the facilities, and I didn't have a kit at home at the time. But yeah, it wasn't to just sit at home and watch TV. I think it was always much like anything creative. I have to do sort of at my own pace or as much as you can in a band, but like, which is not always good. Like there's a lot of unfinished projects that I'm left for me because I'm just like constantly going back to it. And
is there anything that can be done about that, or have you kind of just accepted that as your essential nature?
I did accept it for a while, but then I sort of started telling people that I'm doing stuff, so then I'm accountable for it. Like,
right.
I'm going to make a record, and then people like check in. It's like, how's that record going? I'm like, shit, yeah, I've got to make that record. but I think having accountability, that helps me in a lot of ways. Like, I'm the same with like going to the gym or anything like that. Like, if somebody checks up on it and is like, did you do your thing today?
How's that gym going?
That's probably the area where I'm most focused at the moment. But
really?
Well, it's like goes hand in hand. Like, I know that not being on tour for a while and then going straight back into it, I need to have some kind of like cardio on my side.
I found that when I first started touring, I was about 17, but as I entered my 30s and was touring, I had to work out every day on tour, otherwise I just felt terrible.
I think that's what I'm like I'm like anticipating that now. I'll be like 32 next week, so I'm like, now's the time to look after myself.
When do you feel like you became confident as a musician?
That I think that changes day to day as well. I mean, it's a thing that I have moments where I feel like I'm on top of the world, like but that could be within a show. That could be just like a moment in a show. It's like, that's the best I've ever done that. But
do you feel like you reached a baseline where you felt comfortable playing shows and having people pay money to come see you play? Yeah,
I think so. And I think there was a lot of time where it felt undeserved, just because it was quite fast looked quite fast from the outside, and playing these massive shows and being quite young, it was a bit like, how did we like, should we do a bit more work before we deserve this, but you're not going to say no at the same time,
right?
No, I don't want to do that. When you get handed these opportunities.
So what's the very first kind of big opportunity that was handed to you?
Well, we did turn down some. Like, for a while we opted out of doing like an arena tour in England, which we could have done on the first record, but we felt we were shortchanging people in that we had 45 minutes of music. Like, what we're gonna do? Play covers or like,
Right.
We just like playing club shows for that, and the sound of that record like lend itself more to a tight room and a small like people like jumping around. And it was only when we were ready to do that, well, we felt we had like the material or whatever, or the amount of music to be able to, ask people to pay to come and see you in a massive building. But I think like that just gradually became a comfortable thing. I mean, it's like a balance. It's like comfortable that you're going to deliver what's expected of you, but also you appreciate like that as still a big deal.
What do you think of as your role in the band creatively?
Well, with us, we're kind of, everybody's got quite a similar opinion on things. Alex does the lyrics and he writes the lyrics and a lot of the music, but he'll never complete anything until it's been through us, sort of thing, or like he's bounced it off us. And even with lyrics, he'll have he might have like two lines that he can't decide on, and he like puts it to us. It's like, what sounds better here? That kind of thing. But for me, I think for a while I was quite determined to. As a band, we felt like everybody should have the moment in a song where it's like, wow, like he's a great bass player or he's a great drummer. But that gets a bit insane if you're trying to do that in every song.
And sometimes the great bass players and drummers accomplish that without having a spotlight.
Exactly. And that was the big thing that I felt, and particularly on this record, I felt was like almost the difficult thing to do is it's like what you don't do in it, like the age-old thing. But
right, it's like if you're watching like a great comedy duo, the straight man is just as skilled as the funny person.
Well, that's it. I think the importance of playing for the song became more and more relevant and more important for me, in that it was just like, this song doesn't need like, I used to put so much pressure on myself to like play a beat that nobody had played before. Like, I don't want to just be like I could be replaced by any person tomorrow. Like, I want to come up with something new every time, but you can only go so far with that.
Yeah, I think the next step after that is I'll play the same beat that anyone could play, but make it my own.
I know, exactly. Yeah.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Collectivo Coffee, handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at collectivo.com.
So the first album did really well. It charted.
In England, it was number one.
Number one in England.
Yeah.
So how did your life change after that happened?
I suppose it was the fortunate thing, probably for like my state of mind, was that we were on tour when we found out. And it was quite, and we weren't headlining, and it was quite interesting that we'd just become like the biggest band in the country, but we were on this, it was the Enemy tour where there's like just a few bands on the bill. And we were on second to last, but we just made all those like final shows, like we were just like buzzing, and like the crowd was amazing. And but I think the first thing was the single, like the first single went to number one, and that was like the most unexpected thing ever. Like by the time the record came out, we were like, this could do quite well. We never expected the number one, but the single was like, no way. Like we were like making ridiculous bets with people. Like one of my friends, he's like, I think it'll go top 20, and we were like, no. And they said maybe even top 10. And I was like, if it goes to number one, I'll do a gig in just a pair of like shorts, like football shorts. And it did. And I was like, because I just thought, no, there's no way.
And then you did that?
Yeah, I think we played Amsterdam, and I had to just like wear these tiny shorts because you can't go back on a bet, I suppose. But I don't think it wasn't like overnight. Like now, like I think I still lived at my mum's house, and it was. I think and probably their lives changed a bit more. Like the press were quite into us then, and they'd like go to his parents' house, go to his schools, and like. They wanted to know if
even
we were,
the
like,
drummer's parents' house.
Everyone's parents' house got yeah, exactly. And it was like they were kind of just. I mean, like the English press do. I suppose they were just trying to find out anything bad to tarnish this thing. Like, were they bad at school? Were they bad kids? And things like that. And wanted old pictures of us and stuff. And that was weird. So that was obviously something that you don't expect in your life. But I think we just kind of we were quite realistic about the fact that. If we let this go to his heads too much, we'll never make a second record. We were like, and we were quite determined to make that second record quite quickly, instead of living off that, because we could have probably toured that for another 2 years or something and got sick of it and all of that. But we were like, we've had this we've lived with this music for longer than everyone else has had it, and we like want to keep going and make another record.
Was it difficult to be in the moment when you were making that second record with that kind of pressure on you?
Yeah, I mean. I think we sort of enjoyed aspects of it though as well. Like we were still at a point there where we put as much pressure on ourselves as we felt from other people to do that record, which probably had moments where it made it difficult. But we were just realistic about the fact that like we need to just enjoy this as much as we can. And so when we made the second record, we made it in London. And we'd not made a record yet there. The first record was like in the middle of nowhere, no disturbance. And this one was like we'd get to go out at night sometimes and like experience that aspect of like being in a band. Like we're all going out together, and we're not really getting recognised yet because we weren't like visually everywhere. We'd always turn down magazines, and we were in his first video, but then we were like, we don't want to be in this video. We don't like, and we just didn't want to be famous. I suppose we didn't want like that part of our lives to change. It's an uncomfortable thing, I think, like getting recognised and then knowing what to do once somebody's asked you if you're who they think they are.
I mean, that seems wise given the age that you were.
Yeah, I think it's that. I mean, it was incredible that we were so young that was frightening, but also mature enough to make that decision, because we could have easily been like bring it, like let's just do this and like be the biggest band in the world. But I think we didn't want too much of that side of our lives to change, and we still wanted to feel relatively normal.
Earlier, you mentioned that you took efforts to try to create something unique with every drum beat.
Yeah.
But at this point, what do you think it is about what you bring to the table in general that makes your playing unique?
I think now it's like you were saying earlier, like with the drums and the bass, like that relationship is important, more important than it maybe has ever been. Or I consider it more important than I did before. And I always knew that that's like the engine room, and that's like I should be looking at him and listening to him when we're playing. But now I think there is a lot more. There's probably more conversation going on about like specific, like where the kick lands versus where his thing lands. Whereas before, I think we just got quite lucky that it worked out sometimes. And maybe the types of music we were playing early on, it didn't necessarily matter that much. But now, yeah, like the element of like groove that's been introduced to this record, and restraint, I think that's it. Like the role is not sticking out too much when it's because there's a lot more like music on this album, a lot more instrumentation, and there ain't really room for everybody to go wild all the time, and that's that's not the role of me as a drummer, I don't think.
When you listen to this new record, or any of your records for that matter,
yeah,
does it make you feel proud, or do you hear everything that you want to change?
I still have a bit of both. This record I'm still really proud of, and I listen to it and yeah, I'm like happy with it. There's other records. I think I just learned to let that go though a while ago. I used to definitely think that, and like I was saying earlier, especially playing live, you'd like get better at playing the song and be like, oh, I wish I could record this now. I'd have done that.
That always happens.
But yeah,
sure.
Exactly. And once I knew that was a natural thing, I don't really like get bothered by it. Yeah.
You mentioned that for creative endeavors, you kind of need to approach it in your own way. And early on, when you tried to take piano lessons at the mall, it just didn't take. So it seems like you're largely self-taught on the drums, but I wonder if you have anybody in your life that has served as a mentor in a creative way.
For drums, there was a friend of mine from back home called Joe Green, who he now teaches drums to kids and stuff. But he was in, we were in bands that toured together. They were like in a band from Sheffield at the time, and we went to the same college, and he'd been, by the time I met him, he'd been playing quite a long time. And we were the same age though, so he'd started when he was like 12 or something. And he had a drum kit at home, and he'd let me go and play on it, and he'd like show me certain things, and I kind of knew that that's what he was good at, like showing people that you can do it as well, which is what he's gone on to do quite a lot of. And I think he was important in that. Yeah, he had like the patience to let me go and play on his drums, and he wasn't like a teacher in that like he'd be upset if I got there and I hadn't improved. It was just like we should be just having fun and playing drums, and he'd like put System of a Down on or something, and we'd try and play along to it, and he could already play it, and I'd be like watching him like, how do you do that? And I think that was very important. And I think elsewhere it kind of became James Ford as well, the producer, who in one way or another has been involved in every record.
When you think about your friend Green that you learned from, and how he's gone on to become a teacher, but your band kind of took off.
Yeah.
To what do you attribute the success that you've experienced versus the type of life that he's made for himself? Like, do you feel like luck played into it, or do you feel like your band did something unique that perhaps his bands didn't do? Or
I don't know. Yeah, I've always struggled to put my finger on what the difference was. Like, why was it us? And I think I think timing and luck. Like, it resonated with people at a specific time. That first record, and then coming back with another record and like being like, do they still like this? Yeah, okay, good. Like, it was sort of like that. But I don't know. I think it's because they had their success as well. They had records out and toured a lot, and then recently kind of got back together and did some big shows in Sheffield, and nobody really like nobody necessarily knows why it was us and not them in a way. Like or other bands that were around at that time in Sheffield who all played together. And I never wanted to know. I never wanted to be like, oh, it's because we like did this or whatever. But I think we played a lot. We played as much as we could, and we thought it was important to play well live.
Yeah.
More so than it was recording at that time. Like our relationship with being in the studio came later. Like the love of being in the studio came like last couple of records for me, and live was what it was all about. And so it's the reason we rehearsed so much before we'd even do a show. We were like, this is where people are going to see us. This is what like we want to be known for, like a good live band.
To you, what does it mean to be a good live band?
Well, it's certainly not like playing all the songs perfectly every night. I don't think. I think there's a place for that in certain kinds of music, definitely, and that's impressive. But with us, it was about being exciting and just having energy with the performances, and like it's not. I suppose it's somewhere between chaos and perfection, but more towards the chaos side, I suppose. And I think I don't know. I try and think what like I looked at when I saw bands and like why I got excited, and a lot of it was the performance, like the people, like just seeing them performing whatever they were doing. It was just like impressive that they were doing that for you or something. But it was hard to apply that, like, because I think when you start, you just like you maybe more so as a singer or a guitarist, you like model yourself on somebody that you like and see, and you do a few of their moves, and then it gradually becomes your thing. And that was probably me and the Hives, like with the drum kit, having the drum kit set up like that and what it looked like. And I think, I don't know, yeah, I think like it was just about having energy and excitement, and for like 45 minutes to however long we play now, it's those people can just like get away from everything and just watch this thing that's different every night.
The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click donate. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, and if you enjoy what you hear, give us a review.
How do you feel about your life right now?
I feel, good and excited about the tour. It's been it's a weird transition because it's like being at home quite a lot recently, like the most I have since the whole band started, probably.
Do you live here in LA?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did the only like other thing I'd done since the last Arctic Monkeys tour was I did the Iggy record and the Iggy tour, and that was the tour was quite a short thing. It was just 3 months and then we were done. And so I've been spending a lot of time at home, so I think it is like that. I've enjoyed that, like the home life and living here and being here. And now, it's been so long that I think the tour, it feels like it's the first time we're going on tour again. It's like everyone's, like all the crew are here now, and we're doing like the production rehearsals, and we're all like, everyone's excited to get going. But in terms of life, like as somebody in this band, I think it's not that, it doesn't really change that much now. It's like day-to-day life is, I'm not like famous in that I can't go outside and
right.
Nobody ever recognizes me. It's like a day to day I'm just a normal, but walking a dog or whatever.
What are the thoughts that loop through your mind the most?
It's a lot of nonsense, and I do a lot of photography, so I usually have a camera with me wherever I'm going.
Is that a Leica?
Yeah, it's an M4, that one. That's kind of like my other obsession, I suppose, other than drums. But I don't know what I think about, really. I'm always thinking about that.
Do you worry about things?
No, I used to as a kid, definitely. I was a worrier, like staying up at night thinking everyone were going to die. And I got over that.
Well, everyone is going to die.
Well, like soon. Sooner than I wanted them to. But no, I don't. Yeah, not anymore. I mean, I worry about like, I don't know. I've got a kid now, so there's another thing to worry about, and that's like obviously changes your life. That's like, okay, you can't be as irresponsible with certain things as you used to be able to, but that's fine. I think that suited me. It came at a good time, probably. To like,
I mean, have you ever been very irresponsible in your life?
Not so much for like periods of my life, but yeah, like there's been. That's more so with the band, I suppose, on tour. There's like been things I've done that like I could have died doing that, or like stupid,
what?
Just like climbing things when I'm drunk, or for example, just things like that, like jumping off of roofs into pools, like nothing that wild, but just things that could have gone really wrong, and that kind of that faded away. I think like finding pleasure in that stuff was very much in my 20s thing, and now I don't. Now it's like it's almost like the creative side of my life, like photography and music, have filled it, fulfilling enough. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes up for like being wild, or it's just coincided with getting older and having a kid and stuff. But in terms of when I walk around and what I'm thinking about it's usually either music or photography. Like I look at something and be like, that'd look good in a photograph, or
Tell me about how you got hooked up with Iggy.
That was through Josh from Queens, because we'd worked with Josh before on Humbug. We had a relationship, a friendly relationship, obviously. And he phoned me once when I was here in LA, in Whole Foods actually, about to check out, like doing a very normal day-to-day thing. And he phoned me and he just said, "I've just received the phone call I've been waiting for since I was 16 or something." And I was like, what's that got to do with me? But I was like, he was just proud to share this news, and I was like, because I felt like, should I know what he's talking about? And then he was like, Iggy wants me to produce his next record. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I just thought he was telling me the news, and I was like, congratulations. And then he's asked me to put a band together to make the record and hopefully tour it one day. And I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, do you want to be the drummer? And I was like, yeah. And I didn't obviously take much time to think about it. I was like, yeah, like, can we do it? How do we do it? And they were Queens were on tour at the same time as us, but due to finish at the same time as well. So it's like, as soon as we're off tour, we'll get going. And I think it was quite a bit longer after that. So from the first conversation, I don't think we made the record until a year after. So just all the time. So that's what I was thinking about for that period of my life. I was just like, what's this going to be like? Is it going to be like a Stooges record? Is it going to be like a solo record? Is it going to like?
Were you a huge fan of Iggy's work?
Yeah. I mean, I was more familiar with Stooges than I was his solo stuff. I mean, I'd heard a lot of like with Bowie and all that kind of stuff, but I just kind of like forgot about it in a way. Like if someone said Iggy Pop to me, I thought the Stooges for a while. I forgot that. Of course, he had this solo career as well. It was like amazing. So then when we found out it was all going to be that was really exciting. Like we were going to only play his stuff rather than the Stooges stuff.
What is it about you that made Josh call you for that gig?
It's almost like I'm just like dumb and I can just like play this beat forever and ever, but then I'll have a moment where I explode,
right,
and do something. And he's like, "That's what I want." Like it's not always unpredictable, but there's going to be a minute where you do something, and I'm like, "That's why I wanted you to do it." And that was like amazing to hear, obviously, because like anybody he's worked with in terms of drums are just like the best.
Sure.
So I'm like, well, that instantly like made me a bit nervous, obviously. And so then he was kind of talking about what the band was going to be, and he didn't want it to be too much of Queens of the Stone Age or too much of one band, basically. So that was quite a delicate thing. So it only ended up being me, him, and Dean from Queens, and then Iggy doing the actual record, which was unbelievable.
What did you learn from Iggy?
He was another person who's quite happy to offer wisdom in a way. No, he don't necessarily know he's doing it, but he's just like naturally like shares and tells stories, and anything can like trigger a memory that is like, oh God, I remember when I met blah blah blah. And there's not that many specifics from that I learned, but musically I think. And I'm not really a lyric writer or a songwriter as such, but when they were writing together, him and Josh would write lyrics. We were all there for the most part, and he did a thing where like and I've been around obviously lyric writers enough to know that this was a different technique to what I'd seen before. And he would like he'd write lines, and whereas Josh were like, he'd get stuck on this line and be like, what's it going to be? What's this next bit going to be? He didn't want to move on until he had that, whereas Iggy were like, just put anything in there and we'll carry on. Like he'd put a nonsense word in that wasn't, it was just the same syllables, which I know happens in a lot of like pop songwriting where they'll just do like a guide track that says blah, 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 whatever, but with the rhythm. But I didn't expect it from him. I thought he'd be somebody who's like a perfectionist at every level. But he just had this like attitude which like, it'll be fine. Like I'll go back and there'll be a great line eventually. And it was great. It was like quite refreshing to know.
Yeah, you could apply that to anything, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just keeping the momentum going instead of getting stuck.
Yeah, it seems like that was more important to him, and it was like, it made everybody excited because you just weren't stuck on this one thing all day. Yeah.
Have you been able to incorporate that into your life?
I think so, actually, yeah. I think I've done that with, like, if I make music on my own, I've got a studio at home, and I'll do... I used to, with the same issue of having unfinished projects, it's probably be part of that. So applying that in that way was great. Like I'd get more stuck on a sound of something, like a synth sound, where I'd want to get it right before I moved on. And I got it, like early on I'd get in a trap of just using like MIDI plugins because I could just continuously change it. Like, no, I don't like that bass sound, but the MIDI's still there, so I can keep changing it. Whereas now it's very much a hardware studio, so it's like once I've done that sound, if I want to change something, I've got to go back and do it all again. And I quite like that restraint. Mm-hmm. It's important in that kind of music, I think. Otherwise, you will just it's just too. You're offered too much. It's like too luxurious. Like you can just keep going and going.
Too many options.
Yeah, and that could be.
Which is why people probably were better at making decisions when they had to track to tape as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is what we did this time, and we've done that quite a lot anyway. But this time there was no safety net really, and it was we've always done the method of like if you can fit 3 takes on the tape, which is usually what it is, I suppose, for your average length song. It would be like do 3 and then pick the best one or try and beat one, but you've got to record over one. And it'd be like, which one do you want to record over? And that was always like a 2-minute like silence in the room where it's like, did anybody mess up that one? Like it's like, yeah, I didn't do so well on the first one, so let's do that again. Let's go over that one. And that's quite a fun part of it.
To be one of the Strokes. Now look at the mess you made me make. Hitchhiking with a monogram suitcase, miles away from any half-useful imaginary house.
So now that you have a child, how does your relationship with touring change?
Well, the Iggy tour is the only one I've done since she was born, and she was quite young then. And that was, I mean, it was difficult on me and my wife, obviously. She was left with a newborn baby for quite a lot, a lot of the time. Now she's a lot older. It's kind of like it's easier for them to come to more things now, but they don't always want though, and it's not always necessarily convenient for that either, or like the best place for a kid to be, I suppose. But it's like this tour schedule we've got coming up. It's probably less intense than what we've done before, because now we're fortunate enough that we can play bigger shows here as well as in England, so it's like we don't have to like do like a load of small shows in between the big ones to like keep going across the country, like make us way across the country. I think there's a lot more little times where we can come home, and even the whole thing is not going to be as long, like the whole campaign. So I think it'll still be very difficult, but I think it's a bit more manageable now. But I mean, it's definitely not like ideal to be away from your kid that much, obviously. But
do you feel guilty when you leave?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, the reason is it's because it's like such a fun job as well.
Right.
You
So
know, it's
you're
not
out
like I'm
having
in the,
fun, and
yeah,
your
it's
wife.
not like I'm
and-
in the military, like I'm doing something honourable that I've got to do. It's like I'm going to go and play drums every night for, you know. And obviously, like, no one wants to hear that that's hard work. It's like anyone who's doing anything, you know, that is hard work, or like looking after a kid on their own, or doing a job that's like physically.
I mean, do you feel like it's hard work or not?
It has a toll on, yeah, definitely. I mean, physically, it takes a toll, as you know, and but yeah, I mean, it's still something that's unnatural for like somebody to do, I think, in a way.
Sure.
And this side of it, like missing people, that's going to obviously take a toll on you.
But you could
then-
argue that it's not without value. I mean, you're
That's-
giving
yeah.
people are enjoying it.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like that. I have an hard time complaining about it. So the guilt then is hard to justify as well.
Right.
It's like, oh, you know, yeah.
When you sit down to play on tour, do you still have the same amount of fun that you did when you were wearing headphones on your cheap drums?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's sometimes it feels like that as well. Like I remember when I first started using in-ears, and I was like, and we had like a good monitor guy, and it was like, wow, like this sounds great. Like it's not just, it's the same every night now as well, and it's like, it's good. Like I like forget that it's me doing this, because it's such a weird thing. Like you'd hit the snare, but you're hearing it like perfectly in your ears and looking at it, and I don't know. That was like a weird thing to get used to with in-ears, and I think people probably struggle with that as well.
I can remember having that feeling, you know, the first time that I even played with a guitar player without any monitors or
Right,
anything,
yeah.
just the feeling like, whoa, I'm making
You're doing
music.
this. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, when you play with somebody else, that's true. Yeah, when you hear like a full ensemble and you're part of it, it's quite an interesting thing.
Well, what do you hope for the future for yourself?
I hope I get that record finished, I suppose. I don't know.
Do you have confidence that you will
I
finish
yeah,
it?
more and more I do. Yeah, I think it's more like I think I feel like I've got to like do a certain amount before I feel like it's deserved in a way. Like I don't want to do it too soon and then regret it. You know, be like, oh shit, I shouldn't have made that kind of record. Or you know what I mean? I want to make a lot of music and then just be like, oh, that's the thing I like about this. Which I think I'm getting to a point now where like the style is developed and like what I want to do is kind of more clear to me than it has before.
Like you're the kind of person that you feel like you need to put in a certain amount of work in order for it to be justified.
Yeah, I think I do in general in life. Like I feel like I want to get like caught out for like cheating my way somewhere or something, which I don't think you do in music really. It's like if it's good, it's good, however you got there. But I still like feel that way sometimes. But I think I will do it. I think it's like figuring out why as well. Like why do I even want to do that? Why do I want to make a record? Like what's it for? I'm not
So
trying
why
to
do
like.
you want to make a record?
Well, I just like the process of creating it, but I know like a lot of people. Maybe this is more because I'm not writing the lyrics, so it's fine that I do that. But like obviously, when you're writing a record and you're like putting yourself out there, a lot of people need a reason to be like, I wanted people to hear this like message or like hear my opinion on this or on that. So that's why I'm not that interested in the lyric side of it yet. I'm just like, I want to make a lot of music and that sounds cool, but I need a way for that to be on a record. And I like singing, so.
I'll tell you, I'm making my first record
Yeah.
as a singer, and I'm playing most
The
of
whole
the
thing, yeah.
instruments. But what I've found is that it's very scary, and it's very exciting in the same way.
Yeah.
And I haven't felt that way since a long time ago.
That's
I
good
think
then,
for a
yeah.
long time I've hidden behind technical proficiency on
Right,
the
yeah.
drums.
Yeah.
Where I know that I can play the drums.
Yeah.
This I don't even really know
If you
if
can.
I can pull it off,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it really scary and actually really rewarding at the same time.
That's true. And also doing it on your own, there's no real validation until it's done either. That's the other thing. It's like, obviously you can play to people and say, what do you think of this? But when
It was the scariest thing ever to show it to one person.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'm already making excuses for why. Well, I mean, that's obviously going to change because it's like, that's how I am. Yeah.
When you do write your first lyric and sing it, who's the first person you'll show it to?
I'd probably play it to my wife first, actually, before anybody else gets it. Because she's like a good combination of, she'll tell me if it's shit, and she's quite good at. She doesn't.
Is your wife a musician?
No, I mean she can play. She doesn't do that professionally or anything. She like can play guitar and she's good with words. She writes in other ways, but so she could. She'll know if something's a bit like cringy as well. Like, oh, you wouldn't say that. Like you wouldn't
Right.
say, you don't say that kind of thing, or you know.
Like she'll be able to know if the words are not in character or not
exactly,
consistent with who you are.
Because that can be difficult. I think when you start writing, you
find
start
that
writing
voice,
something
yes.
that's, I don't know. Yeah, it's not even you anymore. It's just like that sounds good as a word next to that word. But would I say that word?
Yeah, it's a fine line between kind of having a persona
Yeah.
and staying true to
Which
whatever
is
your
fine
creative
as well,
voice is.
but like you've
yeah,
got to
sure.
either do that or that.
There's a difference between Jim and Iggy, right?
exactly.
You know, so-
yeah, absolutely.
But Iggy is also Jim in a way.
Yeah, there's like parts of you in both. Yeah.
Well, do you have any closing thoughts?
I don't think so. No, I enjoyed myself.
I enjoyed
It was
myself.
therapeutic.
Good. Matt, thank you for being here.
No worries. Thank you.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.